Thomasville, North Carolina. Entertainment talk radio at its best with Kaye Dee and Motormouth on Crucial Conversation.
103.1 FM, WEOM. This is Kaye Dee with the Kaye Dee and Motormouth radio show.
I'm Motormouth.
This week we have Black Leaf, who's been with us in attendance before. We're glad that you're back. How are you, Black Leaf?
I'm pretty good. I'm glad to be back.
Well, cool. We appreciate your time. And we also have a very special guest. We have Miss Tiffany. And how are you, Tiffany?
I'm doing pretty well.
Tiffany, I appreciate you being here on a serious note because she's going to share a very personal experience that she has with her son. She has a son that has been diagnosed with autism. What is the technical term for it?
The technical term is autism spectrum disorder. Yeah. And basically that means that children, it's a spectrum. So basically there are some children who are worse off, who don't speak, who are very sensitive to sound, to the temperature of water, sensitive to light. And then there are some who speak very well, and then they're productive members of society when they grow up.
It's sensitive to the temperature of water?
Yes. I've known some children. I've went to the Marcus Autism Center with my son, and there are some children there, and they're very sensitive to the temperature of water. So, for example, they're going to take a bath, and they want to take a warm bath. The mother or the father, they'll put the water on cool because it feels really warm to them.
Oh, okay.
And so there's sensory issues, you know, with hearing. Like, for example, my son, he doesn't like very sudden loud noises. So if I close the cabinet in the kitchen, he jumps up. He's frightened.
Gotcha. Or somebody chopping something on a cutting board. He always gets afraid of that.
So there's like a sensory thing. It sounds almost like senses may be heightened in some level.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I'm not a professional. I'm just, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what it sounds like. Senses might be heightened. But I wanted to talk about autism, and I appreciate you being here, Tiffany, because like I was saying earlier, autism is a spectrum disorder, and it is growing in the United States. And I'm going to read a few facts. Like right now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but right now in the United States, autism affects every 1 in 88 children and every 1 in 54 boys. That's a lot. The autism prevalency figures are growing. More children will be diagnosed with autism this year than with AIDS, diabetes, and cancer all combined. Autism is also the fastest growing serious development of disability in the U.S. Autism costs the nation right now $137 billion with a B dollars per year. And right now, autism receives less than 5% of the research funding of the many less prevalent childhood diseases. That's interesting. So it's a spectrum disorder that's growing, but the funding is not in line with what it should be.
Correct.
That's what it sounds like. And also, boys are 4 times more likely than girls to have autism. And right now, there's no medical detection or cure for autism. And these are just facts and figures that I took from the it's the Autism Speak organization. But I am glad that you're here, Tiffany, because, we really need to let the public become a little bit more aware of autism and the signs and symptoms and what it's about. Now, is there anything in particular that you want us to share, like the signs when your son was diagnosed, what caught your attention, whatever you want to share, we appreciate it.
When he was first diagnosed, even before then, he was a premature baby. He was born at 26 weeks. So they told me that he will have some developmental delays. And so they said by the time he's about 2, he would have caught up with other children his age. And so I realized, okay, well, about 2 or so, he should be, talking more. He should be making eye contact. He'll be doing normal 2-year-old things. And I realized, a little after 2, he's still not really talking. He's not eating. We were having issues with feeding. He wasn't doing any of the normal things. And I just felt something was off.
He wasn't eating?
Right.
I'm trying to imagine.
He would just drink milk. And we were introduced with Pediasure, which is like a supplement type thing. And, just packed with vitamins. But he wasn't eating anything out of a spoon at all.
Oh, okay.
So even if I presented him an empty spoon, he would be terrified. He wouldn't put it anywhere near his mouth. And so after, just seeing all of these symptoms and talking with my friends who have children his age, I just realized, okay, well, something's not right. So we went to the pediatrician, and he suggested that I see a therapist who specifically, deals with mental neurological disorders. So we went to the Marcus Autism Center, and they observed him. They observed him playing. She asked me 1,001 questions about his lifestyle and what he does. And, so a few weeks after that, I was basically given the diagnosis around his 3rd birthday. And he wasn't making eye contact with me. He wasn't really talking or babbling. He would play with strange things like pieces of string. He would be just fascinated with certain... He wouldn't be fascinated with cartoons. He'd be fascinated with certain objects.
And this was at age 3?
This was at age 3.
Okay.
And he wouldn't interact with other children. So, for example, when we had a play date, he wouldn't play with the child. He would just watch him. And so I would encourage him, John, come on, let's play, let's play cars, let's play ball. And he would just rather watch the ball roll. And he didn't want to interact or anything like that.
Even in some situation like Discovery Zone, Chuck E. Cheese, all that same thing.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Okay,
if anything, it would be really loud, and he would just watch everybody do their own thing. It's like he didn't want to go in there and participate. And so at first I thought, well, maybe he's a little shy, and I understand that. But even then, he just was not interested. And so when I got this diagnosis, I realized, okay, this is a lot bigger than what I ever dreamed it could have been. And we were told to go to special ed pre-K. And that was basically to help him be surrounded by other children who have these issues. Also to have a behavioral therapist and a speech therapist. Behavioral therapist because when he would throw tantrums, he would throw objects. He would... slam doors, and he just tore up the house pretty much. Yes. So he would be throwing pillows, and he picked up on stuff that wasn't always good. But
I'm wondering, like, how did you well, I'm thinking mother's instinct probably kicked in eventually too, because I'm thinking some of the symptoms that you discussed could be diagnosed as just traditional, what I call traditional terrible two. I hate that term, but terrible twos kind of do exist. Kids go through that phase where everything is now, just, throwing stuff, having temper tantrums. But you knew instinctively that something wasn't right.
Right, especially when he wasn't interacting with others, and he would just rather play by himself.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, he doesn't. I wouldn't think he's much of a loner. I mean, because when he does laugh and play, he's so full of life, but. It's just the little tics that he had, the little things he would do. And I'm like, okay, well, something's a little off. So, after we got the diagnosis and we started the therapy, I started to see a difference in him. Slowly but surely, he's starting to talk more. He repeats everything. That's a big symptom of autism. He repeats, instead of saying, I'll say, okay, John, what was an example? Can you throw me the ball? And he'll say, can you throw me the ball?
Oh, because I'm thinking, again, a lot of toddlers, when they went around too, they repeat everything. Some things they shouldn't be repeating.
Exactly.
But they repeat
We've had some issues with that.
so that's a good example of what, a sign and a symptom. Now, give us that example again, because I'm thinking it's different than just a toddler just repeating randomly things that they heard.
It's called echolalia.
Echolalia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
echolalia. And so that's basically, they'll repeat it word for word. They won't even switch out the pronouns. They won't say, can I throw the ball?
Gotcha.
They'll say exactly as you say it.
Gotcha.
And he does that even to this day at 5 years old. He still repeats word for word.
That means you got to really watch yourself.
That means, yes, ma'am.
What you say.
I really watch my mouth.
Word for word, verbatim.
And he will say it, and he'll repeat it all the time like a little parrot. All the time.
Echolalia?
Yes, ma'am.
Always talks about the city bus.
Yes, he loves MARTA. He loves anything with wheels. He loves buses, the trains, fire trucks, cars. He loves all of that. And so he will remind me, city bus, we're going on the city bus.
Was it a 172?
We're going to the 117 city
117,
bus. We're
We're
going to the mall. So if you tell him something, he will remember. And so I'm always mindful, like if I want to give him a reward for something, and if he follows through with what he's supposed to do, then he'll remind me, we're going on the city bus. We're going to take a walk. Okay. And see, he has an excellent memory, and he has excellent hearing. Although sometimes I know on purpose he's, tuning me out. Which I think all children do.
Yeah.
In some
Yeah.
aspect, he's just like a regular kid. It's just he learns differently. And I think that's kind of the main point with children with autism or any kind of disorder. They're all the same. It's just, they learn differently or they react differently. And you just have to learn to I guess deal with that.
It
and
sounds
it's
like
not
it
bad.
sounds like they perceive differently, the sensory, heightened sensory.
Well,
so I get what you're saying.
With that in mind, isn't there, I don't know, make some sort of opportunity for their other gifts to come out? Because I think there's been kids with autism that have, great musical talent. Then there's some that, I think they call them savants, where they're very gifted with mathematical skills. I mean, they could break down square roots, fractions, almost everything, like in an instant. So
some are artists, some of them draw. Some a lot of them have great memories. Some of them are geniuses. A lot of famous individuals actually have autism, or just small aspects. Again, it's a spectrum. So
I know Daryl Hannah, the actress. I don't know if you guys are familiar who Daryl Hannah is. She played in I think, what do you call it, the mermaid movies? This movie, she was always like a mermaid.
Oh, cool.
She has, and again, you're stressing the fact that it's a spectrum. So I guess you're saying you have different levels of it,
right?
Which is something new to me. I thought it was just kind of all.
I'm
learning today also.
Yeah.
But Daryl Hannah also has an aspect of autism, and so does Toni Braxton's. I think her son is like 14 now.
Yeah,
but
he's a teenager now.
Yeah, he's a teenager, but she actually became the national spokesperson for Autism Speaks. National spokesperson because of her son being diagnosed with autism. But those are good signs and good symptoms to look for and I can honestly see how some of them might actually be mistaken for just traditional or, for lack of a better, regular childhood fussiness development, the temper tantrums. Even the kind of withstanding this, because like you say, some children are just naturally a little bit more introverted than others, shy than others. But so I'm thinking, like, when he was diagnosed, you said he was diagnosed at 3. But when you think back, hindsight is always 20/20.
Right.
When he was an infant, like when he was a baby, do you think maybe there was something that, now that you know what to look for, that might have been there initially, you just didn't pick up on it, looking back on it?
That's a really good question. I think if he was born full term, I would have, maybe had a suspicion that something was off. But because he was born at 26 weeks, we were in the hospital for 2 months.
Wow.
He was in a little incubator. And so I just figured from what the doctors were telling me and, the therapist and the nurses, they're all saying that he's going to be developmentally delayed. And so I just figured, okay, well, maybe it's just what they were saying, and maybe I'll just wait this out and see how this goes for the next 2 years. And so it seemed like he was slowly developing normally, and then about after 2 years, he started declining because he was babbling a little bit. He wasn't talking, but he was just, he'd babble. And then at 2, it would just turn around, and he wouldn't make eye contact with me. He wouldn't babble.
Aww.
It's like,
and that's a mom. That would be awful.
Rough.
That would be awful.
Live and in full effect, this is Black Leaf online. And whenever I listen to the radio, I listen to WEOM 103.1 FM with Kaye Dee and Motormouth.
Thomasville, North Carolina. Entertainment talk radio at its best with Kaye Dee and Motormouth on Crucial Conversations on 103.1 WEOM FM.
You're listening to Thomasville, North Carolina's best gospel station, WEOM 103.1 FM.
So we're talking about some of the signs and symptoms, and also, like, I think you mentioned to me earlier, was a difference that you noticed in the way that he made eye contact.
Just the fact that he wouldn't really look at me. He would look past me, or he would look at something on my shirt. Like if I had flowers, he would try to pick the flowers off of my shirt instead of paying attention to me.
Like focusing in on, I see what you're saying.
He would focus on other things. If I had nail polish on, he would try to pick my nails, and instead of, I would say, John, baby, I'm right here, and he would just be looking at other things and focused on other things. And if there's a sound coming from outside, so for a moment I thought it was ADD because he was just all over the place. And but then I also found out that with autism, they're very likely to have a short attention span.
Attention span.
And so I figured, okay, well, that makes sense because sometimes getting his attention on things is just ridiculous. It's very hard.
Especially when that motorcycle comes by.
So he's fascinated with the wheels and
the sound. I want to say, I want to mainly say it's probably, in John's case, he's more sound inclined because he hums to himself a lot. He sings. He
so
dances.
it's the sensory perception again. Is what it sounds like. The sensory perception.
Also, another symptom. He waves his hands a lot in front of his face. I believe it's called stemming. STEMMING.
Stemming.
Stemming. And I believe it's a way of self-control. I forgot exactly how they explained it to me, but a lot of children, they just move their hands like this, or they'll just move it around quite a bit. And I think
in front of their face, because they can't see.
I'm sorry, I keep doing that.
So you're saying stemming is when they take their hands and just wave it in front of themselves.
They just wave
and
it
it's a
in front
form
of
of self-control,
right? And it's not like they're waving hello or goodbye to someone. It's just I'm not really sure exactly why. I think it comforts him. Yeah. Because if he's really upset, like when he gets an IV at the hospital or anything like that, he'll start doing that. He'll start waving to himself.
That.
Yeah, he gets very, and I mean, you know, any child will get upset about that.
Yeah.
I remember he also did it whenever he's happy too. Like if he's sitting down playing with
really excited,
sitting down playing with his toys, and his head will follow his hand, and he'll wave, basically, like she said, he'll wave his hand in front of his face, you know, horizontally, from kind of like the Miss America wave, but not as girly, you know.
I got you.
If that makes sense.
yeah, because I want everybody to kind of get a visual idea so they would know what to look for as far as, you know, the difference in the wave. But I get you. You say it's like a form of self-control, too. I get it. But we're going to take a quick station break. Again, I'm Kaye Dee with the Kaye Dee Motormouth Radio Show. We're here with Blackleaf, and we're also here with our special guest, Tiffany, and we're discussing autism, the signs and the symptoms. We'll be back in a moment.
Thomasville, North Carolina. Entertainment talk radio at its best with Kaye Dee and Motormouth on 103.1 WEOM FM.
Hello, welcome back to Kaye Dee and the Motormouth Show. Today we're here with our special guests, Blackleaf and Tiffany, and our host, Kaye Dee.
Hi.
So, Blackleaf, exactly how did you get involved into autism?
To be honest, I wasn't really familiar with it until I started, until I was hanging around with Tiffany.
Okay.
And then I met her son, John, and, you know, at first appearance, he seemed like a normal, 2-year-old boy. He was
with
just,
a lot of energy.
With
I met
a lot of energy, yeah.
Don't forget that.
You know?
Yeah.
So I used to worry about if he was going to run around, run into the table, to the wall. He got a lot of
throwing
energy.
pillows
and
playing with tissue, tearing it up. But it wasn't until then that I actually, I guess you could say, heard about it. You know? I mean, I've heard, because whenever people say that, you know, they have a kid has development issues, they don't really say much about it. You hear a different name over here, you hear a different name over
like
there.
ADD, maybe.
Yeah,
ADD.
but to the average person, it's all classified in the same category. They don't really go too far, and they always treat it negatively. So
yeah, and I guess, you know, as you know, because I know when I first met him, I just thought he was hyper.
I did.
You know, I'm just
I really thought ADD. I really did.
So, you know, pumping up with more candy and sugar than what he should have. But like as you said, after you be around a child for a while, you begin to understand their behavioral patterns and different things like that.
yeah.
So exactly, how do you overcome those issues with a child?
Well, it takes a lot of patience, and the right amount of care, because if you sleep on the fact that your kid needs help, then obviously he's not going to get better. But you know, as long as you have a active role as a parent, then you know, do the research, find the right things. Like I know in Tiffany's case, like if she would go to the doctor and the doctor said John's got this, she would have, you know, a plan for A, B, C, D, all the way down to Z. Then she have a plan Z1 and Z23, and just
okay.
So you have to be actively involved, and you have to care.
Okay.
Right.
yeah.
So as far as the support groups and different things out there. I mean, how easy are they to reach out to? I mean, you know.
Well, I think they're pretty easy in terms of, you have other adults, other parents who understand, okay, you have a child who has special needs and you have to be patient. You have to, you have to keep going strong. Sometimes you lose that and then you have someone else who understands, like, hey, I understand what you're going through. Here's some support. Here's some advice. Sometimes you just need to get away for a few hours and they'll, babysit your child and you can return the favor. So that's extremely, extremely helpful.
Yes.
Sorry, on top of that, when you say like having close friends, family, and
a good support system.
Oh,
Yes,
definitely.
That's what I agree to say.
Right.
Yeah. Good and deep,
yeah,
where,
very
like
understanding.
you said, allow you little breaks and everything, but then at the same time, they knowledgeable about the situation, so you can feel that your child in good hand, good care.
Also, to add on how to overcome it, I would say that if you're going to stick with routine as far as trying to help your child out, you can't really stray from that routine. You have to, because, for example, you might have a single parent mother who's staying with the parents, right? And the parents might look at the kid as, oh, that's my first grandbaby. I need to spoil him. I need to give him this. I need to give him that. And then there's very little discipline that's being dished out. And then all of a sudden the kid goes back to the mom, and the mom's got to, correct everything that the grandparents just did. So it's...
Everyone has to be on the same plan.
Like consistency,
Same
throughout the plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on some level, that kind of sounds like a child that doesn't have autism. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just...
Sounds like a typical Thomas situation.
I mean, it does, but it's worse on a...
but it's on a different level,
It's a different scale. It's worse because whenever the mom tries to discipline a child, the child's got that grandma, grandpa support group to go to, and in their eyes, the kid is never wrong. So if he's throwing pillows out the window and hitting
like that with a lot of grandparents. That's why I'm trying to pinpoint, like,
true. But it's worse because I mean, on one hand, the normal child can develop and eventually learn right from wrong, whereas if
you mean like learn to manipulate the grandparents, and that's what happens to an extent.
It's not like everybody need, like you said earlier, everybody need to be on the same plan.
On a whole different.
Grandparents need to realize the special needs that's there too, to make everything conducive, for the program.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, I understand what you're saying there.
Yeah, I guess it's because of like Tiffany shared earlier, maybe the sensory overload makes it different, I'm assuming and guessing, because I'm not really that familiar. I'm guessing if everybody's not on the same level, on a different level with a child with autism, that sensory overload and the tantrums is going to be a lot more stronger and severe than just like the traditional terrible
Exactly.
twos. I think I see what you're saying.
Okay, now I'm just curious. We're talking about their activeness while they woke. Is there anything different that you can also notice in their sleep?
Yeah.
Fortunately, John sleeps at night. I've met a mother whose child did not sleep at night. She had to barricade the door to make sure he didn't go out the front door. Because he would unlock the locks. He was 4 years old, and he'd go out the front door.
Okay.
And so I'm very fortunate he doesn't need any kind of medication to sleep. It does take him a while to calm down to get down to that sleep level. But when he does, he's out for the night. He's out for 10 hours. So I'm very fortunate about that. I know. Very fortunate.
What's his average bedtime, though? I mean,
his average bedtime is about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then he gets up about 8 a.m.
Okay.
So that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's normal.
You get a chance to recuperate.
I know, exactly.
Right.
You know?
even
since
if
you said he likes routine, I bet he really has to be in the bed at 9.
And no cartoons on, nothing like stimulating, no toys or anything like that. Just a nice, cool environment, and he'll go off to sleep.
Can't have other people over that he knows.
Yes, that's correct. Anyone he likes playing with, he's all over them until midnight, and so that 9:30 window is out the door. So,
but he wake up at the same time.
He'll wake up at 8 a.m. on the dot.
Okay.
Yeah, I get
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's strict routine. It really is.
So, in speaking to you, what would you really want people to know and other parents to know about if they have children that might have special needs and they have not yet pursued, professional help?
I say it's very important to seek help as soon as you can, because it seems like the earlier you can get help, the earlier they can start learning skills as to how to improve their lives. Because it seems like the longer you wait, the harder it is to instill those skills in them. And so it just seems like the sooner the better. I think that's kind of the best, and not to be in denial about it. There's some individuals who are in denial and, oh, my child isn't this or that or the other, but you know what? It's for the betterment of the child.
Right.
And so I look at it as soon as you can get help, some kind of therapist or doctor on your case, then go for it.
Also, don't be afraid to fight to get the help, because some cases some cases the state might be the ones that are offering basically almost free help, I'd say. But at the same time, sometimes they don't want to, like if you go to a certain center, they might not mention that you can get speech therapy at your current elementary school or your current
or sometimes insurance pays for things
Yeah.
you
That
don't
was my
realize
question. Yeah,
that
does
they pay
insurance
for it.
cover
That
it?
happened to me quite a bit. I didn't realize that my insurance pays for a speech therapist to come to my house,
Exactly.
and they'll come
Wow.
to the house for 30 minutes a week, and they'll just talk to him, and they'll point out pictures, and they do little puzzles and stuff. So just that mental stimulation helps out a lot. But yeah, sometimes you have to ask a lot of questions, and you
Right.
have to ask parents and whatnot.
because sometimes they won't be willing to help you out and
Kind of
give
like
you
you
the
have
advice.
to fight for
Yeah.
the
Right.
right for your child.
Exactly.
To receive what he's in. Yeah.
Now, you kind of answer my next question. I was going to say, when you go into disciplining
Right.
or disciplining, training, exactly what is the duration time of their attention span? You might be.
Do you do time
know,
out? I'm curious.
Because like I know I teach piano, drama, and a couple of other things, and
Right.
I know, and just dealing with young children, period. I used to try to do an hour, but I realized
An
an hour is
hour?
too long
Oh,
for
my
them
goodness.
until we have broken everything down as a half hour, which I heard you mention about the therapists come in and do a half hour. But in some cases, even with the children, I find 15 to 20 minutes is a challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, punishment is very. I've kind of learned. I try to take away the thing he loves most. The things he loves most are cartoons,
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob SquarePants, any kind of toys or anything he really loves. I say, okay, you can't get this back until you start behaving yourself. You say thank you. You say please. He throws a tantrum, and unfortunately, he goes to my mother. And that is kind of
Sounds
that.
like a
Hey, that's
tradition.
grandmama.
That
Yeah,
is
sure.
something.
It goes back to what I
Yeah.
was saying before, that manipulating the grandparents
Exactly.
against the
But-
parent.
But also the other reason behind disciplining the kid is when they run to the grandparents and the grandparents baby them, but all of a sudden, the child realizes, hey, I can get away with anything. I can do whatever I want to. Then that's when they're going to act up, and the thing that they were doing previously, what you were disciplining them for is being done in front of the grandparents, and they start running around like there's a building fire. They're like, oh, get this child. We can't control him. So it just goes back to square one. Everybody has to be on the same page.
Well, that's kind of normalness. I mean, the normal thing of a child, they
Yeah,
could
that's what
pick
I'm
out.
thinking. What's the difference?
Yeah,
It
they
sounds
could
like a
pick
child
out.
that doesn't have autism.
Yeah.
It really does.
It's something, I guess it's just something you have to experience. So.
And I think that's what I'm trying to. That's why I keep asking what's different, because to me, when you have a toddler, because you did say your son is 3.
He's 5 now.
I mean 5. With 3 when he was diagnosed,
Right.
from what I recall. But a lot of the things that you describe sound like typical toddler behavior. It really does. So I guess I'm trying to pull out a little bit more what would make a person that has a child that might possibly have autism and not be aware of it, be able to look and say maybe there's something wrong to make them go get tested. Trying to dig a little bit deeper into.
I guess the learning thing, the learning aspect of it, learning his alphabet, learning to recognize people in pictures. I would say, "Where's Grandma in the picture?" And I'd show him a picture, and he would just repeat me.
Oh, okay,
Instead of
okay.
pointing to Grandma or saying, "Here's Grandma," he'll just repeat me. He'll just do it
Okay.
over and over again.
Okay.
So I think with autism, it's the biggest thing is the learning aspect of it. Just trying to teach him things. So instead of him just repeating me, he actually retains the information,
Gotcha.
and he can go
That's a
back
good
and tell
example.
me. Yeah, and he can go back and tell me, here's grandma, or here's the color green, or instead of just repeating me.
Gotcha.
What color is this? And then he'll just repeat me. What color is this? What color is this?
That's a great example.
Also,
I
to
like that.
follow up on that, I think once you learn what your child really likes, it'll probably be maybe a little bit easier to teach him, because there's a time where we went up to the park, and I know I was pointing out all sorts of things to him after we got done playing, and yeah, little kids got a lot of energy, and we had to stop at 30 minutes? Something?
Yeah, we were trying to aim for a couple of hours, but he just had so much energy. In 30 minutes, he's running around the baseball
Yeah, I
park.
almost ran off the hill.
And
I'm trying to imagine a child with autism at the park. There's a lot going on. Wouldn't he get like sensory overload a little bit? I'm just
well, there
No,
wasn't
he-
a lot of children there.
But I
And
mean,
think
you
they were
got
in
the
another
grass,
field.
you got the cars, you got dogs, cats, people. It's not like a little.
Well, he loved it, but
It was
So he
interesting.
likes it, so that's a good
He
thing.
liked it, and it wasn't as many people, or it was actually pretty quiet that day. It was a nice, cool.
there was like maybe a high school football team practicing, but they were like
They were
practicing
like way on the other
Way on
side
the
of
other
the
side.
field, and so he seemed okay in that environment. He loves being outside.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's kind of
Okay.
I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
He loves being outside. He loves the fresh air. He
Mhm.
likes saying trees. He loves that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that's good.
And
That's
so
good.
I think that helped. If
Yeah.
if you know what he likes, then you can kind of well, this is how. Okay, SpongeBob. That's a very good example. He likes saying, "This is the blue door," like SpongeBob going in the blue door. Or
Yeah.
look at Squidward. That's one of the characters from SpongeBob. So he's getting better at recognizing characters instead of just repeating me.
Gotcha.
Who is that? Instead of
Gotcha.
saying who is that, he might say Squidward. So he's getting
Gotcha.
better at answering me.
and identifying.
Yeah.
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 Because that was my next question was about developing their large and small motor skills. What do you have to take into consideration in that to aid them?
He's having issues with putting a spoon to his mouth and eating.
Okay.
So that I'm not sure if that's a motor issue or just an attention span issue. But and then he's having issues with like kicking a ball and things like that. So we are working on his motor issues. The best resource for that, I would say, is a physical therapist. Physical therapists are occupational therapists, and they help with motor skills, with moving your hands or moving your feet, because sometimes they're very content in doing their own thing. They don't know how to use their body like that.
Now, it seems like also, with those type of therapists, also a recreational therapist would be pretty good in that too. Because they would have the idea of recreational play, the outlet to help them do it. Because I have ran across a couple of them in the past that work with, children.
But I've actually seen occupational therapists that work with children also. They come in with balls and different things. So it's probably, but recreation, they probably would give them a little bit more large body skill, motor skills, outside play.
I know the hardest thing for them to learn right about now is potty training, so.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a huge issue.
Yeah.
So that was
And
another sign that you knew something might not be.
that's and I understand. I've always been told that boys take longer to potty train than girls. I'm not sure if there's any real truth to that or not. But he just has a hard time. It's something different. He's sitting on the toilet, and it's something, we'll sit there for hours. And I've given him a lot of water for lunch, and he won't urinate a bit.
You
as
left
soon
the
as I
child
take him
on
off.
the toilet
Oh, I
for
sit there with him. I play on my cell phone, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and we've done that. And so, but then as soon as I take him off and he walks to his grandmother's room, he urinates all over the floor. And it's a huge puddle of it, so I know he's been holding it. And so
maybe it's a control thing that he's
it might be a
messing with you
control.
about. I'm just guessing.
I have no clue.
Either that or maybe the fact that whenever he sits down, he realizes that, it's for sitting, so.
Yeah, it's ideal to identify the different things. And then again, like as you were mentioning earlier, how the fear and the sensitivity of different things play. And he could feel like sitting down, he's just supposed to be sitting down, and having mentally gather that this is a time to release.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it goes back to
many
like,
challenges.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about before. Maybe, with the help of a, I don't know what kind of therapist would assist with that, but a therapist, maybe behavioral therapist is what I'm guessing, would be able to help with that. But that's a good point. That was a good example because I wanted something a little bit more concrete to show what's
I was
different.
thinking about it,
Because
what could I
everything, the
possibly-
way you describe it, I can see how a lot of people might think their child might just have ADD or just too much sugar or be a little too hyper. But the way that you expressed that was pretty nice. That was a nice example. But I have one more thing that I'm trying to figure out too now. And like I said, I'm not an expert about autism. I'm sure we're not the only ones that are not extremely familiar with it at all. But we need to recognize, because it's a growing thing and more children are being diagnosed with it. But I don't know, like maybe Tiffany can help me out now. I know someone that actually has Asperger's syndrome. And when I went to the autism organization's website, just trying to get a general brief synopsis of what autism is about, I also discovered that, like you said earlier, there are different aspects of autism, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that Asperger's syndrome is I want to say like an umbrella subset of autism. So I'm wondering, like, maybe that's why more research needs to be going on, because autism is something, kind of like another thing that comes to my mind that is very popular and growing, but it's like you hear it all the time, but nobody really takes the time to break it down as lupus. I know that's off topic, but there are a lot of things, and for some reason they're actually becoming more prevalent in the African American community.
Correct.
Not that we're trying to make this a black thing, but I'm just trying to bring a little bit more awareness, because like Black Lisa expressed earlier, it's about denial.
Yeah.
Well,
We
it
need
seems
to
like
be aware.
everything is more prevalent among our people.
You're right,
of all illnesses and different
diabetes.
things and everything.
You're right.
Everything,
Right.
heart disease, everything. It seems like we're number one.
We are.
So we need to be more focused
And aware.
Aware and understand what's out there to help us,
Exactly.
or help our loved ones.
Knowledge is power.
Right.
Definitely.
Knowledge is power. But even Asperger's, that's something. I have a friend that actually has a child that has Asperger's, and I knew that honestly, I thought he was ADD for a lot of years. I just thought he was hyper. I don't know. But she told me that he had Asperger's, and that's another term that's becoming more and more prevalent as far as diagnosis. But nobody really truly kind of understands what it is, But
it goes back to that classification. I mean, people hear, developmental issues, or they just put everything like that in one category. It's like they don't even think about it. They're like, okay, he's got problems. Moving on.
Yeah, and let's break it down a little bit. You know how my people can be sometimes. I don't want to talk about black folks, but I'm going to because I can, because I want to. Okay. Now, my people have a tendency to deny. They take denial on a whole different level sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
If you get some folks that believe in that old school stuff, they want to just, discipline. It's like they don't want to admit that there's a problem that they really can address and that can be controlled through behavior modification. And like Motormouth mentioned, therapists, occupational. But the thing is, you have to not be in denial about anything. I don't care what the situation is. It can be drug abuse. It can be domestic violence. It can be mental health. It can be physical health.
That's probably why we're at the top of the list, because despite color, the main difference between men and women going to the doctor is that women are always going to be healthier, because it could be like a little scrape or something. They're off to the doctor. Men were all like, just a little scrape, be okay.
Men have
Keep
to
going.
be drugged, kicking and screaming,
and
blood gashing from their head, foot chopped off to get a man to the doctor. Oh my God! It's like, am I exaggerating, y'all?
Oh no, not at all. Not at all.
For the most part, I don't know any male on this planet I have bumped into that just randomly goes to the doctor unless something is really wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure there's somewhere out there.
It's sad. You shouldn't wait until something is wrong with you. You should go ahead and do your annual checkup, just to make sure everything's on the up and up, because you never know what might be happening to you. Prevention is key.
Yes, I know, and I'm glad it's in a TV show.
Is definitely key.
I got Tiffany glaring at me right now. You can probably feel it through the radio right now.
But most males will wait until the Grim Reaper is walking up the front step, knocking on the door, and ringing the doorbell.
Pretty much. That's right. That's why you always have to have some kind of annual checkup,
Yep.
you know, figure out what's going on, because you never know what might be happening.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing about, I appreciate you spending your time trying to, help me understand, because it's something that I'm not really that familiar with myself, but I do know that it's growing in the African American community and communities overall.
Yes.
It's not just a black thing, but I'm just trying to make awareness be on a different level, because I know how my people can be, and the now to me is more dangerous sometimes than anything than action, because my theory on denial, why I think it's so damaging, I don't care what symptom we're talking about or what group of people we're talking about, denial will put you in a state where nothing's going to happen as far as action. And meanwhile, when you're sitting still, it causes you to stand still. You don't move. You don't try to move left, right. You don't try to figure it out. And while you're standing still and not admitting that a problem exists, unfortunately, you're getting worse. Yeah. And that's why denial to me is deadly.
And that's why if you do need to know the signs for symptoms such as this, because I know that these weren't the best examples. I mean, I know they are examples.
You guys did a great job. We just want to get the info out there.
Well, the one I really remember is because John had to have surgery twice this year, and I know it bugged Tiffany a lot too, because
that would be hard. Also.
With him having autism, it's just like you want to tell him what's going to happen and what they're going to do, but there's no way to really come across to him so he'll understand. I mean, the only thing I could tell him, because I was there, the only thing I could tell him was they're going to make the hurt go bye-bye. And that doesn't really...
That would be hard.
Yeah.
A 5-year-old that needs surgery, and you trying to...
It's so hard for him to comprehend,
Yes.
like, the gravity of what's going on.
Right. Wow.
He doesn't know what's going on. He just knows that he's hurt, he's in pain, he's got wires in him. He doesn't know.
Does he recognize when he's in the hospital that he's in a hospital
Yes.
environment?
Yes.
And even that's not
he
a
will,
good thing.
He will kick the nurses out.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
He's ready to go home.
I tell everybody, bye-bye. 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 Point to the door.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, my
but it was just, I mean, that's why if they do need to develop this, the research on it more, and they also need to, not delay. Just if you recognize these symptoms, you need to go get help for your child as soon as possible.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, I appreciate you guys sharing this with us. I really do. And Tiffany, for our audience, even though I know that they're mainly, we have people listening worldwide, so you never know. What is the name again of that organization? The first one that you said you took your son to that was in Atlanta?
The Marcus Autism Center?
That's it, the Marcus Autism Center. Yeah, in case anybody wants information. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head, I can think of an organization, Autism Speaks. It's also a good one, like if you want to go get general information and research, see signs a little bit more detailed than what we've gotten into with this episode.
Yeah. I think, also with them open up more about it, they've opened up or brought in the classification of autism and everything, because I mean that's what bringing it to the media attention, because they're going to add more things into it, or different diagnosis into it. But I think also if a person is just looking for general information, they probably can go to the U.S. Department of Public Health. And
they probably do. I'm sure you can Google and find lots of places.
All the organizations and everything that's out there to be able to help them, because that's the number one source I think for anything. Is to go into the U.S. Department of Public Health.
But a lot of people when they're doing research, if you send them to the U.S. just do whatever works for you.
I just think they might even break it down in categories, for in your local area, the way it goes. If they don't know how to.
I think both locations do.
Right.
Because Autism Speaks, all they focus on is autism. Nothing else, nothing more.
Yeah, I'm quite sure.
Well, in Tiffany's case, I mean, because I know whenever there's a problem going on and she doesn't really have a set name for it, what she'll try and use the internet, mainly Google, to search some of the some of the symptoms, and she'll come up with an answer usually.
Right. Just Google it, because like Motormouth is saying, the information is out there. You just have to find the best way you can. But at least it's becoming more of a thing as far as awareness. It's the knowledge of it and the breakdown of it. And I learned a little bit today, because I didn't know it was different levels of. I didn't know it was called autism spectrum. I also didn't know that Asperger's syndrome was a part of autism. That's interesting to me, but but the thing that bothers me is the fact that it's growing, but yet awareness, signs, symptoms, nobody's really acknowledging that it's something that we as a people, a community overall, regardless of your ethnicity, need to be aware of.
Definitely.
Like, I would be curious to find out. I'm not gonna get off topic a lot. Why more boys or males are diagnosed with autism versus females? That's interesting to me.
I want to say it has something to do with genetics, but I'm not. It's just a guess.
Just curious.
I'm not entirely sure. And then also, if you have one sibling with it, it's a higher likelihood of another sibling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's another one.
So, Miss Tiffany, I appreciate you being here. Like I said, we may follow up on it a little bit later with a little bit more details, but I just wanted to get the word out about autism. Like I said, ever since Toni Braxton came out and she was the national spokesperson for autism, the autism organization, that's the first time I really, became aware of it. And, and I just want to get the general word out with our listeners and online, North Carolina, just all over. But I appreciate you being here. I appreciate Blackleaf being here. And Motormouth, do you want to wrap up anything with the show?
I just hope everybody was listening, can go out and find help or help someone that they know that might be dealing with these issues, and have a great day.
Peace and grace.
Enjoy your day. You're listening to Kaye Dee and Motormouth on 103.1 FM, WEOM, Thomasville, North Carolina. You're listening to Kaye Dee and the Motormouth Show.